Well, good morning and welcome to Over the Vast Nurseries. It's a beautiful sunny morning in midsummer, and the plants here in the nurseries are looking really beautiful with lots of colour, both in foliage and in flowers. And if you're interested in finding out more about the plants that you can grow in this region, that's the northeast and mid-Atlantic states of the US, and you'd like to find out more about them, I'd like to suggest that you think about clicking and subscribing to this channel, and then as we post new videos, which we're doing all the time, you'll find they'll turn up automatically in your feed. Lots of really good plants, including some gorgeous perennials that are very tough and hardy and easy to grow. And a very good example of that is this wonderful variety here of Russian sage that's called Perovskia, Denim and Lace, introduced, as you see, from proven winners. Now here's a plant that, as you see, is really attractive with its silvery foliage, and then these little blue flowers that are carried in profusion on spikes that rise above the silvery foliage and are carried from midsummer all the way through into the latter part of the autumn. What's interesting about this variety, I think, is that it's well named. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that I think this plant is really perfectly named. Denim to me suggests the everyday hardiness and reliability and dependability that you get from growing a Russian sage, whereas the lace part illustrates perfectly the refinement of this lovely airy foliage and the bright sparkling flowers and the elegance you get from growing this variety. Now, one of the really neat things about this, and I'm not sure if you can see them, but the flowers have this very bright blue color, a kind of bright sparkling blue that is wonderful in hot weather because it helps to kind of give a nice cooling effect. Incidentally, these flowers are edible. You could sprinkle them on salads and other food if you want, and if you taste them individually, you'll find that, at least to me, they taste like a kind of minty taste to it. So it's really quite refreshing and certainly would add a good deal of decoration to food. They're very easily picked, you just pick them off. But what's interesting about Perovskias, and this one in particular, is that they have persistent calyxes. These are the bases here, these kind of silvery, kind of purpley little things here at the base of the flower, and they persist after the flowers go over. So when you look at the plant from a distance, it looks like it's still flowering, and that is very valuable because, of course, it adds considerably to the length of appeal that this variety offers. And I'm not surprised that in 2020 it was chosen by proven winners as their perennial plant of the year. Now, it's a plant that gets to about 2.5 foot or thereabouts in height and spreads out to about 3 foot wide, clumps that are about 3 foot wide or so. And if you're interested in planting them in a mass planting, you would space them at about 3 foot centers or thereabouts, and that will give you a really tight, compact canopy that needs very little maintenance and will put on a terrific show all through that period that I talked about earlier. Add to that the fact that this is a very hardy, tough plant. In fact, it's hardy to zone 4. You see, Perovskias are native to places like Pakistan and Afghanistan, Western China, into Turkey and Iran. It grows on the steppes and up into mountainous areas too. Quite inhospitable habitat, and that shows just how tough and hardy and reliable that is as a garden plant. Able to take really cold temperatures in wintertime, and yet in summertime when it gets hot and dry, this is a very good drought tolerant plant that will put up with both extremes of hot and very cold. So that's what makes it such a fine plant. In nature, there's a good deal of variation, and it's that variation that breeders like Kevin Hurd, when he was at Walter's Gardens, used to develop this variety. And then it was introduced by Walter's Gardens in 2014. An excellent plant that will grow in sunny, well-drained borders. You can use it either as a single plant, or as I mentioned earlier, you could mass it for massed effect. It could also be used in containers if you're looking for something that's got that kind of light, airy look to it. And what's more, deer and animals like that normally leave it alone. If you crush the foliage, you'll find that it's aromatic. It releases a very distinctive kind of odor when you crush the foliage. Some people would describe it as somewhere between sage and lavender. Very distinctive, and it's that kind of fragrance, I suppose, that deer and browsing animals normally leave it alone. So it's useful for a wide variety of uses, including also cutting and using in floral arrangements too. So really lots of ways that you can use this fabulous plant. A little bit shorter and more refined than some of the other varieties out there. Certainly tough and hardy and tolerates salt too. So if you've got a sandy soil and you live near the beach and you need something that's going to be able to stand up to salty conditions, you can also use it there. Now, I should quickly mention that the botanists in their wisdom have decided to reclassify this plant. Instead of calling it Perovskia, it's now known as Salvia yangi. But since most people wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about if I was to call this a salvia, and certainly I would get some raised eyebrows from some of our retailing partners, for now I'm just going to stick with the old name. This is Perovskia, Denim and Lace.